The invocation of the 25th Amendment is quite possibly the most detrimental thing that can happen to any sitting president. And recently, we've been paying very close attention to what's going on in Capitol Hill, and House Democrats are proposing to create a commission that would work alongside the vice president to determine whether Donald Trump is fit to remain in office, possibly invoking the 25th Amendment. Now, the part that people are talking about right now is Section 4, and that section allows the vice president and a majority of the president's cabinet to declare that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office. Now, the measure was introduced by Representative Jamie Raskin, and he's the top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, and this comes after a series of controversial statements from Trump. I sat down with Jamie Raskin in his office to talk about the 25th Amendment and how it could be invoked moving forward. Take a look at this interview. Give me a background. What's going on in the life of Jamie Raskin right now?
The other thing I wanted to tell you before we start is I'm wearing sunglasses.
The sunglasses. I was going to ask about those as well. What's going on with the sunglasses?
I got a black eye, and that's a long story. But anyway, it's kind of healing, but my eye keeps watering and everything, so that's why. I'm not trying to act cool just for TMZ.
Well, you look very cool. They're very stylish.
I appreciate it.
I like them.
Well, look, I mean, we're in the fight of our lives here. We are in a titanic struggle between democracy and authoritarianism. The forces of democracy and freedom are on the march all over the country. The No Kings rallies are absolutely unprecedented in terms of the millions and millions of people who are coming out. The party of democracy, as flawed and imperfect as we are winning elections all over the country. We just won a really important election in Virginia, redistricting, that will give us the chance to win 3 or 4 new House seats. I was down in Florida with Emily Gregory, who won the state rep seat for the area, including Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach County. I was up in New Jersey with Ana Lilia Meja, who just won a 2-to-1 margin over a Republican to come to Congress in what was a swing district before. So things are going our way. People are fighting back and taking this moment really seriously. It kind of reminds me of what Woodrow Wilson and Franklin Roosevelt talked about during World War II, where Wilson was like begging the Americans to get involved in the fight against Hitler and the Nazis, and it was taking so long, and Roosevelt's like, I've got to bring people along, But once we get there, there's no turning around. And I feel like that's kind of where we are now with the forces of democracy in the country today. It took a long time for a lot of people to get engaged, but everybody's engaged now, and we're winning all over the country. And there was no more beautiful demonstration of that than in Minneapolis, where everybody basically said they were going to do something to fight off the forces of authoritarianism and lawlessness. And they basically, through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of sacrifice, they defeated Trump's operation. They had to pull out. But at a very high cost. I mean, with Renee Good being killed and Alex Preddy being killed and a lot of people injured just for exercising their First Amendment rights. But the point is that solidarity is the watchword, and you're seeing people express solidarity and act with solidarity all over the country.
And there's been a lot of discussion in the headlines recently about invoking the 25th Amendment, specifically Section 4.
Yes.
Can you tell our audience what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, there are a lot of parts of the Constitution that nobody paid attention to before that have suddenly come alive. If you'd ask 10,000 people what the 25th Amendment was before Donald Trump was elected president, I doubt 2 of them could have told you what the 25th Amendment was.
Right.
But the 25th Amendment was added to the Constitution in 1967. Its key backers were Senator Birch Bayh from Indiana, and then Robert F. Kennedy, who was the younger brother of John F. Kennedy. Okay, and so it was adopted during the nuclear age, and it was 5 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis and 4 years after the assassination of President Kennedy. So it was all about stability in government and continuity in office. The first section of it just says if the president is incapacitated or dies, the vice president becomes president.
Right.
The second says if the vice presidency is vacant, the president nominates someone and is voted on by both the House and the Senate, majority vote. Section 3 I like to think of as the colonoscopy provision because it's been used a number of times for a presidential colonoscopy where the president can temporarily, voluntarily sign over the powers of office to the VP. And a number of presidents have done that. Everybody's talking about Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, which has never been invoked. And what that says is that the vice president and a majority of the cabinet, or the vice president and a majority of another body set up by Congress, can determine that the president is unable to execute the powers and duties of office, and for whatever reason, unable to temporarily surrender them himself. It might be physical, it might be mental, cognitive, you name it. There's a whole procedure in place for what happens if the president says, no, everything's fine. Basically, the only way you can overcome that is if you have a 2/3 vote in the House and a 2/3 vote in the Senate. But the thing is that everybody's been waiting for the cabinet to act. Well, we'll be waiting for infinity for the cabinet to act. But that's not going to happen. Robert F. Kennedy take on, Donald Trump Jr. I mean, the Attorney General, who's like a religious cultist for Donald Trump, actually objectively rendering some kind of dispassionate analysis of the president's condition. Not going to happen. So Congress has never acted for that second half, the other body. So my legislation is intended just to set up that other body. And half of it appointed by Republicans, half of it appointed by Democrats. Half of the people on it have to be former executive branch people, a former president, a former AG, a former secretary of Treasury, a former Secretary of Defense. Half of it is doctors, physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, and then those 16 people appoint a chair. The idea is for it not to be a political thing. And it really can't be political because if it's just a political thing to get the president, the vice president can stop it anyway. But it is a serious issue because we got 535 members of Congress, we got one president. And we have presidents who are older, we have presidents who can be infirm for physical reasons, for mental reasons, and so on. So this is a standing body, not just for the Trump presidency, it's for every presidency going forward. It should have been done back in 1967, right after they adopted it, but it was never set up. So we can take care of that, and at least that can give people some comfort because the president's behavior is so erratic and unstable.
I'm glad you bring up the president's behavior because, like you said, it's been 60 years since Section 4 was ratified, right? And it's only now becoming a mainstream conversation. So that, coupled with, some of the things that President Trump has been saying, I'm wondering what you think of, our current leadership.
A lot of people have said, I remember, because I introduced this legislation during the first Trump administration. So I first put it in 2017 when I went and read the 25th Amendment. And I'm like, oh my God, there's supposed to be another body set up. Where's the other body? And I asked the Library of Congress and they said it was never set up, So that's something we can do. And I reintroduced it in 2020. But a lot of people said to me, that's insulting. You're going to insult the president. And I'm like, the issues go so beyond the level of personal pique or insult. And in any event, we're talking about a president who insults people every single day. He insults members of your profession on an hourly basis, right? He loves to insult reporters and call them, whatever, piggy or, make fun of them. So forget the insult thing. It's a serious issue when we're talking about who's got control over nuclear weapons.
Guys, my name is Jackson Buhai. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you thought of Representative Raskin's interview right there. Drop a comment down below. We read every single one. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.